Alrighty, good afternoon, you guys here, and everyone else who will be jumping in momentarily. Oh, hopefully we're now live. Yep, now we're all queued up. Perfect. So I want to hit on a couple things today with what's going on in Florida right now. Hopefully the picture's not super skippy. It is on my end. Comment if it is, please. I just installed a new camera, so hopefully the picture quality will be a little nicer when everything is done processing. So Florida, for years, has ignored two-way related matters. In fact, they have become very regressive on these matters for a number of years. Back in the day, Florida was on the cutting edge of these things. They were well ahead of everyone else. So back in the 80s, Florida had a county by county permit system in which none of the counties recognized each other's permits. So you had people who would carry 5, 6, 7, 8 permits so they could stay armed and conduct business throughout their area. Eventually, the state clued in on this fact. And it wasn't so much that they were going to restore rights to people. It was the idea that they could make money off of this. They realized it. So they created a unified permit. In that same year, they also banned open carry. And since then, Florida had become sort of the model of how the shall issue permit should work. Florida realized that they could utilize the permit as not only a moneymaker, but outside the state, especially when they realized that they could create agreements with their states to recognize their permit. Well, they had recognized their permits. So it became very valuable for a lot of people to get Florida permits, even if they didn't live here. Some states won't recognize it if you're carrying on an ID that's not from Florida, your primary ID. However, it is recognized in a number of states, even as a non-resident. So there was really no reason or incentive for Florida to change this process. Florida has a lot of swampy issues, literally, when it comes to the apparatuses here. Again, Florida was, as I was saying, was really ahead of everyone else at the time that they implemented all of this and when they began to expand the reciprocity. Well, on the Second Amendment, they've become very regressive. Other states continue to advance pro-liberty legislation. They are restoring the rights to the people who live there. In fact, we had 5 states in the last legislative session, bringing the total to 24 states now with constitutional carry. Now, governor's office in Florida, DeSantis, has signaled that he would have a special session specifically on this issue. Now, I would encourage you, please, to take a moment when you're done with this video, even if you don't live here, if you have any intention of visiting, mention to the governor's office that their inaction on this, the refusal of the state to recognize your Second Amendment rights, no matter where you are from, might be a reason that you don't come here and that you don't spend money here. That does matter, and that's really the crux of it. If they know that a measure is popular and not supporting something will prevent them from getting reelected, they're going to do something about this. So moving along. Just want to make sure I hit all of this. Another point too. We have a lot of senators here in the state and reps that like to hide behind their A+ rating. That's a big factor from the NRA. And they've already endorsed a senator for the new head of the Department of Agriculture. Now they issue the carry permits in Florida. And a lot of guys can easily hide behind that A+ rating because you don't actually have to do anything to earn that A+ rating. For those of you who weren't aware, you literally get a mailer when you run for office from the NRA. You fill it out, and based on your responses, that determines whether or not you get your A+ rating. So you don't actually have to do anything after you fill out that form. And they just keep hiding behind that over and over again. And those of us who are switched on, who are paying more attention, are fully aware that organizations like the NRA come in, they swoop in, they take credit for all of the work that guys are doing on the state level, that the work of groups like Firearms Policy Coalition or Gun Owners of America, and they get to say, oh, look at this victory we contributed to without actually doing anything. More often than not, of course, they're on the side of people who are looking to add more restrictions, because at this point, NRA really exists only to buy suits for Wayne LaPierre, fund his expensive vacations and travel plans, and protect the machine gun collection of guys like Wayne. There's a reason why they haven't gone after the Hughes Amendment at the national level. They're the same people who helped set up the 4473, which right now is being utilized to create a registry of everyone who owns anything. Like, they have a pretty good idea now if you've bought a firearm within the past 10 years of who owns what, and they're digitizing that now at the national level, which is super unlawful, yet no one's really doing anything. Congress has inquired as to why this is occurring, but no one is stopping them. No one is stepping up and trying to defund the entities that are creating this mess. A digital registry of who owns what and where they live, unless you planned on acting on that at some point. To some extent, yeah, I mean, the system is definitely not 100%, Joe, and I get that. A lot of people, as we know, continue to vote for the incumbent class. They like to keep a lot of the same people in power. But if the heat is turned up, if you can get that water up beyond that simmer to a nice boil, they do pay attention to that, and it definitely freaks them out. They've been very adamant, and things have been trickling out from Tallahassee about just how many people have been breathing down their neck to get something done on this. So again, I suspect that there's a good chance that we will actually see a vote, which would be huge, because a lot of these guys don't want to go on record as to how they really feel about these matters. A lot of them are very afraid, as I mentioned before, of all of the transplants that we've had move into the state. People who don't share our values, people who want to see more restrictions placed on our civil rights, which is really ironic if you moved to Florida, because on the whole, it's pretty good here. There's a reason why people are moving here in large numbers, because if you're going to be generally left alone, this isn't a bad place for it. So, as I said, it's definitely worth continuing to reach out to the people who represent you. Right, and here's the other thing too. And in Florida, you can look, even in your own state, you would be amazed how many people run unopposed. Unopposed, like not even just from their respective political party, but when they file to run, there isn't anyone for them to run against. So they, by default, they will even cancel those elections. And that person gets to take office and represent possibly tens of thousands of people. They didn't do anything. They literally just spent, the couple $100 and filed the paperwork. It's insane. Local elections are hugely important. That is absolutely right, Joe. 1,000,000% agree with you. They matter a lot more than what's happening at the national level. We know that because we can see just how much ground we're making up right now when, again, it comes to these Second Amendment related matters right now. So moving on, I wanted to hit on this too. We're getting more stimulus, possibly, in the form of $100 to $300 monthly payments to help offset the cost of fuel. Now, I don't know about you, being into preparedness, being into this type of stuff, I drive a truck, so it's over $100 to fill my gas tank. I don't know what offers that I've turned down because of the excessive cost of going. Now, they keep complaining that there's a labor shortage, yet no one actually wants to raise the rates of pay. So do you have a labor shortage, or do you have a shortage of compensation? If you're not paying somebody enough to live anywhere near where they're working, and with gas prices continuing to soar, a lot of places are just going to say they're going to stay short-staffed. Exactly. Money printer go burr. That was my exact thought when I saw the mention of the next round of stimulus, which is, this one's actually laughable. Because I remember that half a check that we got, they promised a certain dollar amount. Like, no. I mean, at this point, I say just bring it on. Like, the dollar is effectively worthless anyway. It's lost so much of its purchasing power over the last couple of years. As I mentioned yesterday, again, and finding that exact figure has become difficult. It's been memory hold as to how much money we've actually printed. It's somewhere between 40 and 80% of all existing dollars were created in the last 2 years. That's insane. That's insane. Van City, actually, are they just handing money out and devaluing everything you've worked for? Because that's really the scariest thing. No matter how much money you're putting back right now, it is losing right now, which is really interesting. Even just being out and about, people keep talking about price hikes. Oh, let's see. I think my connection dumped. All right, I'm back. But the amount of discussion I'm seeing on these matters, be it global conflict, be it the devaluation of our currency, a lot of normies are having these conversations, which brings me to what's going on with the Russians and oil. They supply about 50% of Europe's diesel. And now they're going to mandate any country doing business with them, they can't use the US dollar anymore to buy oil from them. That is huge in terms of what will happen to the dollar. If people start dumping their dollars in favor of a yen or the ruble, we're going to be in a really rough spot. And that looks like that's the direction things are heading, as again, that divide between East and West only amplifies by the hour. So what has Canada done exactly as far as money printing? Have they just handed out to the general population? I mean, every Western nation right now has been very, very bad in terms of managing its finances over the last couple decades. Yeah, buying defensive tools is always a safe measure in terms of investing. Truly, they don't really lose their value at this point. And if you bought a bunch of antique firearms 10 years ago, they're selling for unbelievable amounts of money right now. And it doesn't really make any sense because a lot of them are not rare. They're just less available on the store shelves. So artificially, people. Ukraine also launched an attack on a couple of Russian ships, successfully, I might add. Now, it wasn't published. This only happened, the story was released only within the past few hours as to what technology they used to launch this attack. But I suspect it was probably something that NATO provided them with, which again is that next tier escalation. The more stuff that we pour in there that's used to take out Russian assets, the more accountable they will try and hold the West for essentially direct acts of war. And that's why, again, yesterday mentioning the vehicle preparation thing. Get all of that squared away because shipping is going to be targeted and factories are going to be repurposed for war making materials and things like that. So if you have any maintenance on your vehicle that you have put off, it needs to be in tip-top shape just to get you to work, just to keep that on the road, even if nothing catastrophic happens on our soil, just to keep your vehicle running. Because we've seen that parts shortage, rotors, again, I mentioned, that has been ongoing for several years now, where aftermarket ones are having to be used, even by dealerships if they can get them. So that's about it that I wanted to hit on today. I just kind of wanted to keep this one short. Really wanted to touch on the Second Amendment related stuff. I'm going to open the floor to you guys if there's anything that you've noticed in terms of actions your governments are taking, if there's certain language that you're seeing in your various media apparatuses that has you a little concerned, the don't panic type attitude that, for example, Ukraine was putting out right before its invasion. I thought that was, that plays right back into that normalcy bias we typically harp on, and we've been people put things off well past the point of no return. Mira still has a few masks in stock as of last night. Yeah, and if you get them, which they weren't expensive. They were only, oh wow, Fan City, this would be like the lowest level of protection that you should try and find. But even those have just ballooned. If you're going to get something really nice and spend money, I know the Mira suits they sell are pretty good. Their masks are really good. Surplus opportunities in general, though, like I said, as long as you inspect that mask, make sure you have a good seal. Still a very valuable option. And there's still plenty of those available on eBay. The filters, though, are beginning to dry up. And I think you're going to see a lot of governments begin to buy from those old stockpiles too. And we know, again, just based on the volume of stuff that's out of stock, there's no way there's that many individuals who are actively buying this up. That's clearly governments doing it. So just keep that in mind as you head out, as you continue to prep, and stay safe out there, everybody. Thanks for listening to my daily rambles. Yeah. So what's the situation? Is Canada allowing export of filters, actually, would be a question. Are they allowing the export of any PPE? because that was, as you know, when this all started, everyone banned a couple years ago the export of 25s, of anything related to protective gear. Yeah, I've seen a couple things on that Constitutional Carpenter where there have allegedly been some very good or some very large-scale purchases of medical equipment. That's something that I would definitely recommend putting back plenty of, but especially just the basic boo-boo kits and the basic medical supplies, Neosporin, Pepto-Bismol, anything that you can get access to like that, because it really, like, go hit up your local pharmacy. You'll see that a lot of that stuff is pretty picked over right now. I was really surprised, but you definitely need to figure out some alternatives too if you can't find. This is where a lot of the survival medicine handbooks and things come in handy as well. Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy are a really good source for that. If you guys haven't watched their channel, and they have that really, really good couple different volumes they've put out now of their survival medicine handbooks. The North American, yeah, I believe that all their bandages are going. Yeah, yeah, that's beyond the military now. Most fire trucks carry them. Most law enforcement officers have a tourniquet on their belt. So preference, again, is going to go to government agencies with all purchasing like this. But yeah, if you can find reasonably priced NBC filters, those suits, any of that type of stuff that you can put back right now would be to your advantage for sure. And hopefully, again, we don't need any of it. Hopefully it just sits there, collects dust. But in the event that things continue in the direction that they're going, they will extreme measures. And we've seen them ramp up the type of weapons that they're using. They're beginning to reveal a lot more technology. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Van City, again. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. That was really. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Got to go get a couple things repaired on the truck again. Speaking about that, and we'll get that all squared away. I'll be doing some outdoor videos and things like that in the immediate future, and I'll have some more information on that Montech generator that I just picked up. Thanks for tuning in. Absolutely. You can find potassium iodide now. There are still some opportunities for that. That might be worth putting back in some pretty good sized quantities. Mapping out possible targets that might be in your backyard that you may not think of. New sites for me would be the big concern. There are several nuclear reactors in Florida, and I would be worried that those might even be a second strike if they're not a first strike. If you can pop off somebody else's nuclear reactor, that would certainly be something to be worried about, right? So make those prep.